Shalom Aleichem, welcome to our Parsha share. It's Parshas Devarim, Tafshin Pei Daled. Okay, so I want to. There's an Or Chaim in this Parsha on the first pasuk of the Parsha, which is actually, I mean, to call it a very famous Or Chaim, it is, but not many people are holding it Or Chaim, so it's not that famous. But he goes through the nine. He basically gives the 9 eights as an avodas Hashem. So obviously we could talk about this for a long time, each one, but we'll try and do it quickly. But just before we do that, I just want to show something that I think is an amazing, something amazing in the Or Chaim that will resonate definitely with you two, and hopefully with other people. In the first in Aleph pasuk Yud Daled. Okay, v'tanu oisi v'toimu toiv v'davar she'dibar lasois. Oh, Yitz is just in time. Sham Yitzi. So the pasuk basically, there's the whole thing in Devarim that he was speaking nicely, he was speaking harshly. Moshe was speaking nicely, harshly to Bnei Yisrael. But listen to what he says over here. Yeah. And I don't want to get into the point of him speaking harshly, speaking nicely. Just listen to how he divides Am Yisrael. And this will give you an insight into what the Machlokes, what it really meant, the Hasidim and the Misnagdim, which is absolutely not the idea of Hasidim and Litvish. It was not a Machlokes between Hasidim and Litvish Yidden. It was a machlokes between Hasidim and Misnagdim. And if you read through the Ramchal, if you read through the Mesilas Yesharim, you'll see that Hasidim does not. This is nothing. This is not Hasidus. Yeah, this is the minhag of what Hasidus became. But read the Mesilas Yesharim to understand what a Hasid really is. Okay, and we could really, I suppose, to just summarize Hasid in one word, we could. Go on. Want to throw out a word? Yitzi, how would you describe the chassid in one word?
I'm excited for what you're going to say because I was just thinking about how to define it this morning. I don't know.
I think you could define chassid in one word. Laser, you could think of a word to define chassidus in one word? Or Simon?
Selfless?
How would you say that in Hebrew? In Lashon HaKodesh?
An unav?
Good. Lishma.
Ehrlich? Lishma. Oh, lishma.
That's the avodah of the chassid in the way that I've understood chassidus. What, Eli? I didn't hear you. What did you say? I can't hear you. I still don't hear you. I can see your mouth moving. That's like a tease. Anyway, lishma. That's how I understand it. The avodah of Hasidus is Moisa Nefesh. That it's all lishma. That's all included. That Moisa Nefesh is lishma. Anivus is lishma. It's not about me. It's about the Rebbeinu Shalom. So when we're talking about the machlokas between the Hasidim and this Misnagdim, we're talking about lishma against lo lishma. We're not talking about. I've met lots of Litvish Yidden who are Kulu Lishma, and I've met lots of Hasidish Yidden who that isn't applicable to them. So listen to how the Or Chaim divides Am Yisrael. He puts us into two groups. Okay, it says like this. It's possible to say, Ki Moshe nischakem ledaber devarim and nishma mehem shnei drachim. He did intelligently to speak in two ways. One is like the way of gnoi, of like hard, of negative criticism. And one like giving praise, like we described. I'm not going to get into that now, but listen to this. V'tamoy, the reason. Ki b'Yisrael hayu shnei sugim. There's two types in Yisrael. He's going to divide Yisrael into two types. The whole of Yisrael, you either fall into one category or the other category. Listen to this. Echad kasat tzadikim. One is the group tzadikim. The echad kas hakantranis. Hakantranis. Kantranis comes from Russian contrary, contrary, neged. Shalom, Michael. The Or HaChaim just divided Am Yisrael into two groups for us. One he called the tzaddikim, and the others he called the contrarians. The Kantronim. He translates that in the art school, he calls that the antagonistic group. So all of us who are learning reclaiming sanity, yeah, we'll know exactly what he's talking about. People go neged. Why do people go neged? You say something to your kid. Your kids are perfect examples of this, yeah? Say something to your 15, 16-year-old kid, yeah? 17, 18, 19-year-old kid. And you'll see, watch him or her. Before they've processed anything what you've asked, they've already said no. It's just like a thing. It's like people go neged, yeah? That is a mechanism of the ego it's just a natural mechanism of the ego to just go neged. So when the Or HaChaim divides Am Yisrael into two groups, he divides them into the tzaddikim and the contranios, whatever it is, the contrarians, the people who are contentious, the balei machlokas. Now that doesn't mean that you're either one or the other, because we cycle through both options. But this is what life is a choice between. It's a choice between tzidkus and contrariness. being a tzaddik, that doesn't mean you agree with everybody, by the way, at all. But it means that you don't disagree for the sake of disagreeing. There are people who just disagree for the sake of disagreeing. And you'll see in yourself, when you're feeling antsy, when you haven't eaten enough, you haven't sleeping enough, you just want to make machlokas with people. You just want to, that's your negative side. That's the dark side of you coming out. The dark side of you just wants to make machlokas. Why? For the sake of machlokas. Why? Because it makes me, and you. Whereas the tzaddik, he cares about MS. So he will say, no, that's not correct. Yeah, as we'll see in a minute, B'ezrat Hashem. But it's not about making you wrong and me right. It's about the MS. And that brings us together, because it's like the contrarian, there's me, there's him, and then there's the thing in the middle. And we're both like this. The tzaddik, he comes over here next to the other guy, and they're looking at the thing on the table they're looking at it from the same side. And that's the key to chocha, where it's not about me going against you. It's about the fact that we're on the same team. And what you're saying right now is off. And I don't want, it's like being on a football team with a guy with a broken leg. I'm going to want your leg to be as healthy as possible, not for me, for the team. I suppose it's a bit for me as well, but for the team. You with me? So reality divides into those two groups, and I think that's a beautiful Or HaChaim. That's pasuk Aleph Yud Dalet. You can see it. It's Russian. It's not. He doesn't really have Russian Maimorim, but it's the Efshe Loma. Okay, but that was just a little. That I thought was just so important. I wanted to mention that. So this is really the shir. Okay, we're going to go through this really quickly, but this is there's enough to chew over here for a lifetime, literally. The Or HaChaim, this is quite a famous Or HaChaim on the first pasuk of Devarim. He basically breaks it down into nine different inyanim. So the pasuk goes for Elu HaDevarim. These are the things Asher Diber Moshe El Kol Yisrael, that Moshe spoke to Yisrael, all of Yisrael. Be'ever Yarden, on the other side of the Yarden, B'midbar, in the desert, Ba'arava Musuv Bain Paran Ubain Teufel, like in the opposite the Sea of Reeds, and the concerning the Arava, which is place, opposite the Sea of Reeds, Mul Yamsuf, between Paran and Teufel, and Lavan and Chatzeros, the Dizav, and another place called Dizav. And he breaks it down into 9 incredibly important ideas in the Avodas Hashem, okay? So it's not so important for us to understand how he derives them from the pasuk, but we will mention it quickly. But we just want to talk briefly about each idea, okay? And these are, like I said, this is a 9-part shir, really. This, as you'll see, we could talk. All of us could talk about these ideas for a long time. So let's jump in. Okay. It's the second. It's on the first pasuk, and it's quite a way in, and it begins ve'efshet lefaresh kol kasuv der remez ba'ofen acher. So the Or Chaim attacks. That's not a nice way of saying it. It presents this pasuk derech remez. Okay, we got pshat, remez, drush, and soid. Pshat is the basic meaning. Remez is always to do with oh no, that's not true. That's weird because remez, drush. No, sorry. Remez is a this goes backwards to what I've remembered it as. Remez was always a hint to like Tchias Mesim or Bias Mashiach or something like that. And Drush is like some kind of Midas thing, and Soid is Derech Kabbalah. So he says Remez here, maybe he's using that in a slightly soft way, I'm not sure. But anyway, generally the way I understand it is Remez is to do with some kind of inyan of, Asid Lavoy or some kind of Ruchnias thing. And Drush is some kind of Midas thing. But this is for sure Midas. Okay. So let's jump in. In a different way. In a little bit of mikra, a little bit of words from the Torah Bechsav. Limed Moshe Klalas Yiras Hashem. Moshe taught the Klalas of Yiras Hashem. Umidas hagunois and the good midas had srichin lahoilchim b'soyas Hashem v'hei midas tisha, and he taught us the klalos of Yiras Hashem, midas tovus, how we need to be managing ourselves in regards to Torah Hashem, how we need to go in Torah Hashem, and they break down into 9 midas. Okay, here we go. Ha'echad she loikeach midaso shel Avraham. You have to take the midah of Avram Dichsiv, Avram Ivri, Avraham who went across the Yarden, Ivri, which is from the word Ava, the first with an iron, the first word, the first part of the pasuk that he drushes. Yeah, Ava means you have to be like Avram Ivri. There's a few ways of understanding this, but the way that resonated with me the most is that if everybody says X and you know that's wrong, then you have to say why. And you can't be scared. Avraham went over the river, meaning everybody in the world was saying X, and he looked into it, he was choiker himself, and he decided, no, it's Y. And he stood his ground, and he took, imagine the kinds of insults that he received, and the kind of, the ostracization, is that a word? Something like that, yeah? Being ostracized, if you know that everyone's doing something wrong, yeah, then never ever say when in Rome. Never ever ever say when in Rome. Okay, so that's the first midah, Avram Ivri. You have to have that midah of being able to cross over the Yarden, even though everybody's on the other side. That's number 1. Number 2, Kishye Madus Beliboy Summit. By the way, some of these are very, very stark, you should know, okay? I'm warning you. So number 2 is I see Yitzhak's like, yeah. He's like, my Shabbos table is going to be flying this week. Okay. So number 2 is Shiyeh Madus Beliboy Summit. Now, Madus means, it's a bit loose, but it means like criticism. I mean, you should have criticism in your heart, Tamid. It brings from the Gemara in Brochas. It's better to have, so to speak, a self-critical voice in your heart than 100 lashes. That's from Lashon Yarden, Mardus, meaning that you should be hard on yourself internally. Like I said, this isn't for everyone. A lot of people in our generation can't do this, but I can see we got at least 3 of you guys worked out here. I mean, me, I'm a supercon, but the inyan is that be very, very hard on yourself. Be very exacting with yourself. That's what he's saying. In your heart, just make sure that you're make sure that you are make sure that you are, I mean, mardas means to basically kind of beat yourself up a little bit, which in this context means that you don't let yourself get away with anything. And I tell you the way that I translate this is I would never ever dream of saying to somebody, I did my best. I would never say that to someone. Now that sounds a bit scary to say, but I don't feel that I could ever say that ever. How could you ever say that you did your best? I mean, look, there could be a situation where you were literally holding on to some kid who was falling down and you held and whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a regular situation where something where I think that's what it comes down to, is you can always say to yourself, and look, it doesn't mean you have to beat yourself up and blame yourself and, but just take the chizuk. And I think that's how I translate this meter is never say, well, I tried my best. I see the people who say that generally the way that I see it, the people who say that are the less effective people in the world. The ones who dafka maybe don't try their hardest when they say I tried my hardest. I personally, I can see Yitzi doesn't like this. Go on, Yitzi.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm understanding. I did my best. What's the scenario? I'm not understanding.
It's not a scenario. It's just, do you ever say that if something didn't work out, you say, well, I tried my hardest. I did my best. A business deal didn't work out. And you say, look, I did my best.
You did what you had to do. You did what you had to do. You did what you had to do.
Best. You can always
did my best. You're saying that there's more I could have done. Is that what you're saying?
You can always squeeze a little bit more out of the toothpaste. Out of the toothpaste tube. There's always a little bit more to squeeze. I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying now get down on yourself and beat yourself up. But at least when you don't say that, you learn from the experience. And next time, maybe you'll be able to not fall into the failure that you fell into this time. It's just, yeah, you guys with me? This idea of saying I did my best, it's not a healthy thing to say. Maybe for somebody else. In fact, I had this experience with my friend next door who he left me in charge of his 2 rats while he went to America, yeah? And I killed one of them by accident. I didn't actually kill it, but it died on my charge. I did what I was meant to be doing, apparently. Yeah, but I did feel like bad that he died on my charge. And when I told my friend, his first thing to me was like, I know you did your best. I know you did your best. And I'm sitting there thinking, I really hope I did. Like I don't think I did do my best, but whatever. But that's the point. He maybe to say that to other people, I felt he did it by instinct. It was really special how he instinctually he just said to me, I know you did your best. It's not your fault, and it's but for yourself, that's how I understood this. Orcham. You can maybe take it in a different way, but that's how I understood it. Okay, Gimel. Midas ha'anova. Yeah, Kamazal, La'olam Yasim Adam Atzmoy Kamidbar. Make yourself like a midbar. Yeah, Va'ayel Masha Pirashti, B'Pashis Yisroi, B'Pasuk V'Yisu, Mefidim. Yeah, V'Huma Sharamas Ba'omo B'Midbar. He explained it in Yisroi. Make yourself like a midbar. So we know there's a lot of ways of understanding another. Yeah, but in the idea of a midbar is you're empty, which means you don't have a sense of self in a healthy way, not in a what's the word, a dependent kind of need for what's the word, need for validation from other people, but meaning you're outward focused. It's not about me, it's about you. That's derech ha'anova, and that's hinted to in the idea of a midbar, which is a barren place, a place where nothing is. Yeah, and that's the idea of your sense of self should be bound up in a Shem sense of self, as opposed to, like we've said a few times, you should be connected to why you are, not what you are. That's a deep statement. I've managed to make that statement a couple of months ago. It just completely resonated with me. If you're connected with what you are, then what are you? You're just like a piece of flesh. You're what you are is not much. Why you are, that's the kavanas of boire. That's infinite, the why you are. The what you are is pretty limited. In fact, it couldn't be much more limited. But the why you are, the what you are, the why you are, that's the Ribbono Shel Olam. That's his kavana in Brias, Michael Novak, Itzy Katz, Simon Rinkov, Shmuel Diamond. That's the Ribbono Shel Olam in the what you are. You with me? So to be connected to the why you are as opposed to the what you are, and that would be a feeling of emptiness, not of emptiness like I need to be filled, emptiness of just I'm available, Ribbono Shel Olam. Okay, onward. That's another. Dullard. Shatiya, now he explains this. So the next one is Shatiya another, b'derech hanos. The another should be beautiful. Yeah, v'loy derech hapechisus v'hanimus, and not disgusting. Like another's could feel, I feel disgusting, I feel horrible, and I'm, my head down, and that's not anivus. He says it should be derech nos, should be nice. Your anivus should be nice. Put it this way: an anav, a true anav, is you can't get enough of him. You want to be with him or her as much as you can. Yeah, that's derech nos. If it's derech haprisus v'hanimus, yeah, disgusting, you just want to get away from them. Yeah, kamosh kasev Rambam v'hilchas deis v'oid tenoi ha'anava shlo yishtamesh b'laharchik toichochas al avoin im yira ish oiver piashem. Another thing it means is that your anivus shouldn't stop you from telling someone off. If you see someone doing something wrong, yeah, be a chochem and formulate. Like I was talking to Yitzi about this yesterday. He was talking about a certain person who was doing something wrong, and you can actually give to chocha in a way that the person doesn't feel in any way that you said anything negative to them. You're chayav to do that. You're chayav to be a chocha when it comes to tochocha, to give tochocha in a way that will be heard. And that usually means that they can't feel that you're giving them tochocha. So you have to be able to work out a way to mention it derech shevach, to help them, to alert them to the problem, but with intelligence, so that they don't do like we spoke about the first people, the contrarians. They don't just go negative straight away, and there's an actual chance of them being makabel to tochocha and going forward from that. Okay. So he says, so you shouldn't shy away from giving people tochocha. That's called an anivus pasula. Yeah, I'm not going to finish the rest. It's just to tighten to the pasukim because we're running out of time. Okay, hey, number 5. We're out of 10, out of 9, so we're halfway. My ma'atana, histaka b'shloisha devarim. You're going to like this one. Look at 3 things. It says in Pirkei Avos, yeah, Perek Gimel. V'lan ata hoylech, where you're going to, v'fnei ata asid din v'cheshbon, who you're going to be giving din v'cheshbon. V'chein ma'atana, and another one, shuv yom echad, lifnei misoso, do tshuva one day before you die. Perusha Sham, what does it mean? He brings some Tanzanite Avois de Rebbe Nassan. Says like this: Shakavana he sheyizkor tamid yom moisoi. Always think about the fact that you're going to die. The shakol yom huzman gavul hamisa, and that there's this, so that every day is in a sense, there's it's like close to you. It could be the last day. That's what it means. Musuf, Shaman Zaki. Yeah, Musuf. By the way, Yitzi, Simon's my brother-in-law, and Michael, Simon's my brother-in-law. He's married to my sister. He says you should always think about your day of death. Just it says Musuf means opposite the end. Shiyel mul einav soif adam v'tachlisoi. That your eyes should constantly look at your end. But that's not a negative thing at all. And something resonates with me so deeply from what Rav Avigdor Miller said, was he said that if he found out that today was his last day, he wouldn't do anything different. That is the statement of a tzaddik. Why? What I want to spend the day with my loved ones. What, you don't spend time with your loved ones as it is? If it's important to spend time with your loved ones, you should be spending time with your loved ones. How much time do you need to be spending with your loved ones? As much as you need to be spending with your loved ones. If your loved ones require 3 hours of your time a day, then that's what you need to give them. if they only require half an hour of your time a day, then why give them more when you can be dealing with the other things you need to be dealing with? So that statement of Reverend Victor Miller is, I wouldn't change anything if I found out this was the last day of my life. That's the statement of a man who is absolutely aligned with his tachlis in this world. Absolutely aligned with his tachlis in this world. And that is, 1 minute. That really is what the Ramchal says at the beginning of Mesilas Yesharim. By the way, Mike, I just made a siyum on Mesilas Yesharim just now. I got through, yeah. So I just made the siyum on it, and I learned it, but Ian, I spent a lot of time in it. Thank you. It's all in your schus. It's his kind of mitzvahs. So one of the things, the very first thing he says is this ames. 1 minute, I have it right here. Slide. He says that the choivoy shel adam, the first thing you have to know as the sefer begins in the Hagdama. Shneya. Oh no, it's not. It's when the actual sefer begins after the Hagdama. He says, "Yesayda Chasidus v'Sherish HaAvoda." Remember, this is a book for Hasidim. This is mamash. This is what Hasidus is all about. Yeah, who she's barav yis ames etzlei ha'adam achoivasei ba'oi lamoi. You should be misbara, work out why he made you, and the yis ames. It's interesting, actually. I didn't think of it as by Buddha, but now that's Loshen Misa. Loshen Misa. Yeah, this ames means to make. It's with an aleph, to make ms. It means to mamash make it you. There's a book written by Stephen Covey called First Things First. Yeah, and he speaks about moving from what he calls living by the clock to living by the compass. Living by the clock means I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You've got a list of what to do, yeah? Fine, that's great, that's already a madrega. The compass means that you're aligned with true north, that you've become so viscerally aware of what your purpose in this world is. You've made such a point of getting clear on why you were created that you don't really even need the time management actually dissolves. There's no more time management. Why? It's like you're a compass, you're moving in the right direction. Time management could be something that you have to be involved in on like occasionally to just make sure that you get everything done in that day that you need to get done. But the idea of staying on schedule, you can't go off schedule. You're a compass. Compass doesn't go off schedule. Compass doesn't deviate from what it was from true north. That's what the Ramchal is referring to. That you become the why you were created, like we said before. You mamash become it. Your heart and the why you were created merge with each other, mamash, and you're just moved in the right direction. And you know what happens? And I said this with Yitzi. This is one of the first questions Yitzi asked me not years ago, but a year ago. You remember this? You said at the Mishmar, sometimes at the end, like 50-50, it turns in like there's always schmoozing at the end, and 50% of the time it's shtuyot, 50% of the time it's MS. And you're like, when do you like, how do you get out of it kind of thing? If you're talking shtuyot, like, and it doesn't. And I said to him, look, you're a businessman. You know how it goes. You don't sit there and schmoot. When you're in a business meeting, you don't sit there and shoot the breeze. When you're done, you're done. And you get up and you clap your hands. Rev Freilich Zatzal, one of the first rabbis that I ever came across in London, he told me he died probably 20 odd years ago, and he was an elderly man then. He had met Rav Moshe Feinstein a few times. And he told me, the thing that he told me, he said, I was sitting with him and I asked him a question. He was a big rabbi himself. And he said, at the end of once it was over, Rav Moshe just like went like this and like kind of not mid-sentence, but he went like, okay. And it was like, clear, finished. I need to get up and go now. That's a man who's living with purpose, meaning when this interaction has finished, and it's no longer connected to my tachlis, it has to stop. And it happens naturally. you find yourself saying, you know, I need to go now, but you've got that worked out. We're good, yeah, good, and you walk off. That's called misames ala. That's called misames, where you and your tachlis have become one. So that's the inyan of having your misa before you, like we said by Rav Victor Miller, that he said that if they were his last day, he would not change anything. Why? Because he's become the compass. He's just living his life. It's just very simple. Life is very simple. Okay, onward. Yeah. Maimar Chassidim, this one you might not like, but we'll read what he says anyway. So number 6, Maimar Chassidim, Zel Shonam, opposed Lasoi Befanav, V'Dagasoi Beliboy. That he should have joy on his face and worry in his heart. Dagasoi Beliboy. Yavu Mashadamas Ba'omoy Bein Paran Bein Toifel, Kens Lasoi Befanav. I don't need to get into that whole thing. It's just explaining it how he learns it from the psukim. But meaning that your outwardly you should always be simchadik, and inside he said you should always be worried that you're not doing what you should be doing. Okay, if you like that or don't like that, that needs to be taken with, you know, with a lot of intelligence and a lot of I suppose self-esteem. Remember the definition of self-esteem that we said is the most fantastic definition of self-esteem that I've mentioned a few times. For me, what is it? How'd you say it? You remember? Anyone remembers? Feeling appropriate for life. I love that. That's from it's a book called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by a guy called, what's his name? Minute. What is it? Oh, I can't see it there. Whatever. It's called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. It's a real slog. It's a hard book to read. But he basically comes out and defines self-esteem as a feeling of appropriateness for life, meaning I can do this. As a Yid, we would be saying Hashem will help me. Yeah, but that's the same thing, meaning that you know that Hashem is not going to give you anything you can't deal with. That's self-esteem. So to have in your heart that you're constantly being chayker, if there's more that you can do, has to be complemented with this feeling of I'm enough. I'm enough to deal with whatever the Rebbeinu Shalom sends my way. And that we know is a tenet of Yiddishkeit. Hashem will never give you something that you can't cope with. So this guy nailed it. What's his name? Nathaniel Bergman or Nathaniel something? Nathaniel something. Anyway. Okay, number 7. This is beautiful. Shiyeh loy leiv tahor v'naki. Shava leiv tahor v'naki. Okay, which means v'yachik memenu sinus abrius v'akina v'hatachrus v'mastema, that you should take out of your heart sinus abrius, hatred of anyone, kina, jealousy, hatachrus, competition, v'mastema, which is like hoping people like fail or feeling bad towards people. If you look at not Shark Tahara, but the Mead of Tahara in the Mesilas Yesharim, that is the chapter where he talks about Lishma. Yeah, a Leiv Tahor means that you come to Lishma. It's very apropos for this time of year, because we know that the Gemara tells us that we had mitzvah, we had Torah, mitzvahs, ma'asim tovim in the second base of Mikdash, but we had sinus abrius. There was lashon hara, sinus abrius, and Hashem was machriv the base of Mikdash. Whereas in the Bais Rishon, yeah, we were oifer on avodah zara, gilui rice, and shvichas damim. But we had emunah in Hashem. It said they brought psukim. There's a machlokas, I think Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish and someone else. But the point is that if you've got Torah, mitzvahs, and Gemilach Chasadim, notice it didn't say tefillah there, because this can't happen when you can't have tefillah when you're in a bechina of sinus abrius. Yeah, which basically is like a fragmented inner world. Like we spoke about the first cut of the tzaddikim and the kontranisim, whatever. Yeah, those people who are neged. So that's this idea of the leiv tahor. A leiv tahor means that there's no sense of this independent self, meaning there's just this big klalius, like we've said over and over. What's the tzaddik? What's the rasha? Hayosi es atzmo min a klal. Therefore, what's the tzaddik? Hamachnis atzmo b'soicha klal. Yeah, the tzaddik is a team player. He sees himself as a klal. Like you watch a football team, watch a good football team, and you'll realize that they're mamash battle. They really are. They work as an organic whole. They don't see themselves as single people when they're playing football. They might be big baligaiva otherwise, but when it comes to the football pitch, yeah, they're mamash. They're just one organism, and they know exactly where everyone is, and it's like one organism. It's just that's how it is. Yeah, that's how lahavdil. That's how a tzaddik appreciates and approaches reality. The whole of reality, yidden, goyim, trees, animals, rocks, whatever. We're just part of this one big cosmic machine. So you're like, who cares if I do the Avera or you do the Avera? You just don't want the Averas taking place. And also, who cares if I do the mitzvah or you do the mitzvah? We should all just be doing mitzvahs. I want you to be as successful as I want myself to be a success. That's called a leiv tahor. That's a leiv tahor, and that means that there won't be sinus abrius, there won't be kina, there won't be competition, and there won't be any ill will between us. Okay, number ches. Talmud Torah b'kavius. Yaakov Avinu, d'chsev, Yosef v'halem, loy lilmad arai, v'hu oimroi, v'chatzeiroi, sahem v'chatzeiroi, Hashem shahem, batim v'joshos. Talmud Torah b'kavius. Remember we've spoken about this before. What's the milah of being koveya itim than being koveya shiurim in Torah? There's two ways of being koveya Torah. You can either be koveya itim, every day from 9 until 11, I learn Torah, and I do that, and also I do koveya shiurim, meaning I do my daf of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, I do my Hilchos Shabbos, I do my Nach, every year is different, whatever, I do my Parsha, I have shiurim, I can do that whenever I happen in the day, yeah, and they're both very important, but koveya itim is more important. What's the added milah of koveya itim over koveya shiurim? You remember we spoke about this before? You guys remember?
You make everything else work around it. It doesn't change.
Yeah, which means you're making yourself secondary to the Torah. Koveya shiurim, and I'm not saying anything bad about koveya shiurim. I'm just saying something more about koveya itim. Koveya shiurim means, look, I've got to learn my daf yomi today, and I'll fit it in. There's my life, and then there's the daf, which is very important, and I'll fit it in. And if it means me staying up late at night, I'll stay up late at night. We'll get up early in the morning. Being koveya itim means 9 o'clock, life ends. Reality's finished. There's just Torah from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, from 9 o'clock till 9:30, whatever it is. It's a completely different mindset. Meaning I'm not fitting Torah into my life, which is a big madrega. I'm bending my life around the Torah. That's an even bigger madrega. That's being koveya itim. So that's something that the Orach Chaim says. And finally, shlo yihye lahud acha devarim hanidmim. Do not be drawn after dimyonos. Yeah, don't get sucked in to the riches of this world, okay? This world is mamash dimyonos, and it really only takes a very quick thought to realize that all of the things that people are chasing in this world, like the physical things people are chasing in this world, are mamash hevle havalim, mamash. It really does. I'll just say the story once again. Yitzi, I hate to, about when I drove, when my friend Tomer lent me his fancy car, which is actually the car that Yitzi has. And it finally, I mean, Yitzi feels like this, Baruch Hashem. Anyway, but this was a big revelation for me. I thought I was completely beyond the idea of a fancy car. And I thought that, I knew that if somebody offered me like a Ferrari, yeah, unless I could sell it, I wouldn't take it. It just had no interest in me. And I really felt that. I'd never actually driven a fancy car though. I'd never driven like a sports car, yeah. So a year ago or so when I was in the States, my friend lent me his cars just to go to whatever for a night away for a decent drive, and he threw me the keys to his very fancy BMW that like is like basically like as fast as a Ferrari kind of thing. Yeah, very, very fast car. And he gave me the keys. And I was very scared at the beginning and I finally got through, but I realized later that I hadn't actually gotten over that in myself until I'd driven the car. And I realized that really is absolutely nothing. A fancy car that drives very quickly is really nothing. And it was a surprise to me how nothing it was, because I'd never put my foot down on an accelerator and actually like went, whoa, like that. And this time I did that and I was like, that is really nothing. Like that's just absolutely nothing. Like that's
Was
nothing.
was the top down or no?
with the top down, yeah.
Mm.
The top down's nice. That feels nice. Don't be wrong. And the feeling is also nice. But also, a date is nice, or a bite of chocolate is also nice. It's not something that I'm gonna run after. Do you know what I mean? I definitely don't care about the fact that people are looking at me thinking, I wish I had that car. That's for sure not a Manda Amma. But these things that people chase after, it doesn't take much to realize that it's all nothing. Not that if you've got the money and you can have, that's okay, fine. But it's not something we're chasing after. It's not important. It's not important. Maybe you can attach the word nice to it. It's nice, but it's not important.
So let's say your paint is coming off of your car.
And now you've got the opportunity to change the color of your car.
Don't do it. You're saying it. Okay, I get it. Now I get it. Thank you.
This is what the represent. Don't run after it. Like we've said many times, yeah, there's a big difference between you're in your kitchen, you open the pantry, and there's a chocolate bar there, and you eat it. Yeah, between getting in your car at 12 o'clock at night and driving half an hour to a gas station to buy a chocolate bar. That's two different metziuses. One guy likes to taste the chocolate. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's fine. Givaldic, eat your chocolate, enjoy it. Yeah, maybe work on it, but that's not a big deal. But getting in your car and driving half an hour to buy a bar of chocolate, that means it's become important to you. Okay, I'm not saying there's not, things have a time and place for everything, but I'm just trying to paint the idea. Don't run after. This is what the Rebbe says here. This is what the Or Chaim HaKadosh says. He says, don't be drawn after the things of this world. He's mevatel his avodas Hashem. If you're running after things that aren't important, by definition, things that are important have become unimportant. That's the point. You can't be aligned with two things. You can't think Narishkeit is important and avodas Hashem is important. Like I said to Simon sitting here with his son Zachari, who likes football. I've said to him many times, enjoy football. Enjoy it. It's great. But don't think it's important. It's not important. And if you think it's important, then you can't say that avodas Hashem is important. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy it, but you can't think it's important. That's what the Rebbe says here. So do not go after the things of this world and be mevatel avodas Hashem. And then he just finishes. We'll finish right now. He finishes on one last thought. He says, and I think adam listapek behechreichi, and a man should be satisfied with just what is essential. You don't need more than what's essential. Again, people don't like hearing this, but the Ramchal says it throughout Mesilas Yesharim about 3 or 4 times. And then he gives the explain that basically don't go after things that aren't essential. Yeah, you need to pay your mortgage. That's something worth chasing after. Okay, you need to pay for your kids' food. That's something worth chasing after. Yeah, but that fancy holiday, or the beige leathers in the new sports car, that's not something worth chasing after. So that's we said it many times, a very, very helpful avoider that I found in my life is one of the most helpful things that I do, and it's so easy, is just starting by using one paper towel instead of 2 or 3 paper towels, and just trying to take as little as you can from this world as possible. It's really easy, and it's really, really healthy. It's really good for you. It's really, really good. And like I said, I just went through Mrs. Shasharim, and I was very happy to see that he said that about 3 or 4 times. That idea of just the lashon he uses again is v'tzricha adam listapek behechreichi. You have to be satisfied with what's essential. What's essential is essential, and that's important, and you can run after that. But once things are dealt with that are essential, now you can move, you can let go, and that's a very healthy outlook. So just we'll say very just say the Rosh Hashanah again. Number 1 is you should be like Avraham, be able to stand against when everyone says X and you know it's wrong, you can say Y. Number 2 is you should have some level of self-criticism in your heart and always be able to not be so enamored by yourself. Number 3 is you should be humble. Number 4, the humility should be a sweet humility and not a toxic humility. Number 5 is remember that you're going to die. Okay. Number 6 is you should always have an externally happy countenance, and internally you should don't be complacent. Don't think yourself a big tzaddik. Number 7 is a leiv tahor. Number 8 is be koiveya eating the Torah, B'ezrat Hashem. And number 9 is don't get sucked after the shtuyot of this world. Remember, if you make something that's not important, that means by definition you're making something that is important not important. And that's how I understood the first pasuk of the Or Chaim in this week's parsha. I'm going to go to
that be listened to again. That was a lot of home runs in there. Thank you. A lot of home runs.
Yeah, no, that was the Or Chaim Kodesh. Okay.
Wow.
Have a good Shabbos. Mazel tov, by the way, on our birthday, our baby should be happy.
Mazel tov, Michael.
Mazel tov, all the daughters.
I mean, happy, healthy, and holy. B'ezrat Hashem.
Amen. Mazel tov, Rabbi.
Tigers and Chevre.